It's the NFL Week 3 Survivor Pools. You are watching the most in-depth, unique analysis on YouTube for all Survivor Pools. Coming up next, it's Scratching and Surviving. All right, guys, we are scratching and surviving our way all the way to the big money here at the Sharp app. Guys, firstly, did you have a little bit of a heart attack last week if you took the Giants in any of these formats? I know I did. I had a lot of exposure to the Giants last week. They looked atrocious for the first half of that game and then storm back to 31 points in the second half, win 31-28. So we get a little bit lucky there, but you got to get lucky almost every week in these pools in order to survive them. If you're in a larger style pool, of course, it's going to take a lot of luck for you to win that pool, but we could turn the luck into a little bit of skill just by watching this video. It's going to help you with increasing your edge in all of these type of pools. And guys, more of you watched this video last week than we had any other video that we've ever done, certainly in this Scratching and Surviving series. So I just want to thank you guys tremendously. Not only did you guys watch the video, but we had more subscribers just on this video than we had for the prior couple of weeks combined in all other videos. So that was tremendous, amazing, helping us grow this channel, which is going to only help all of you guys more because we're going to be able to do more and more content like this. If you're into sports betting, you're going to want to subscribe to this channel. Also, download the Sharp app at sharp.app. If you're into sports betting, if you like props, if you're into prize picks, props, I've got a tool on the Sharp app that's going to help you. I helped build this tool. It's going to help you figure out what the best plays are on prize picks based on the sports books lines. So we look at the lines in the markets, in the prop market on the sports books, and then figure out what the projection is based on those lines, and then compare it to what prize picks has and look for any discrepancies. Those discrepancies we're going to want to take advantage of. Also, if you're just a props player, we've got projections inside the app that are going to help you beat props at the sports books. Also, you guys should be using props. If you're a DFS player, those of you who know me know how much and how involved I am in the DFS world and the level of play and the size of play that I have in DFS. Use the props to your advantage in DFS. So tools like we have over at the Sharp app are going to be a tremendous value to you. But you could also use it in your survivor pools, because I use it to check what the lines are, and then that's how I figure out what the probability of a team winning. So all you have to do is download the app and you'll get all the scores and the lines right at your fingertips. So check it out. And guys, again, appreciate all the likes and subscribes. For those of you who have not done it yet and you could do it, please. It is a benefit to us. All right, now let's dive into what we've got going on here for this week. I want to jump into the Survivor, not the sheet, but I want to get into the Survivor grid right away. Firstly, actually, before we get into Survivor grid, let's jump into a pool that I am in right now, because I want to go over small pools with you guys. This pool started with 42 people. As you can see, we're now down to 24 entries. These are my 2 entries here. And I just want to go over a couple of things from this pool that you can learn from. How I place the teams I picked and why I put them in the order I put them in, firstly. And let's go over that first. So Baltimore and Washington were the 2 teams I liked in week 1 for a pool like this. Baltimore, as you recall, the chalkiest pick. Washington was a pick that on a team that we would not necessarily have any future value on. We're not going to take this team in the future. So this was a pick certainly in larger pools that I was advocating. And in smaller pools, I wanted Baltimore. But the fact that I have 2 entries, I went with 1-1 on these. Now, what I did this week, we had a similar situation with the Giants and Buffalo. Buffalo being the chalkier pick, a team that we may want in the future, and the Giants being a team that we probably don't want in the future. What I did was I mixed them up here, and I paired Baltimore and the Giants, and I paired Buffalo with Washington, because that sort of flattens out my equity. Because here, which of these would you have rather had after week 1? Would you have rather had this Washington entry or the Baltimore one? Well, they're not equal, right? So when we do our equity calculations, and let's do that quickly, if you are doing an equity calculation on your pool, let's say you've got 1,000 people started in the pool, and now you're down to 500, and you had 10 entries, and you still have 10 entries, right? So you were 1 of 1,000 10 times. So you have 10 of 1,000. You had 1 in 100 chance of winning your pool. That was the equity that you had in that pool. But if we've lost half of the entrants in the pool and you still have 10, you've got a chance of 1 in 50 as opposed to 1 in 100 chance of winning your pool. You've now doubled it. So you've doubled your equity in the pool. We're looking to go 50 and 100 times our equity when we win these type of pools, if not more, in these larger format pools. But you could see that we could say, okay, of the 10 entries that we have, which one has the most equity? And the teams that you've used with the future value, the teams that have lacking any future value that we're not going to take again, those have a higher equity than teams that we are taking the chalkier picks. That's the reason we take in larger pools. We want to take some teams that have less future value, but maybe a little riskier in the now compared to a team that has a higher spread in the game, just like the Giants last week, as opposed to taking Buffalo or Dallas, because we can increase our equity. We need to keep increasing our equity until we get to a point where we can start talking about hedging. We're not even close in these pools to talk about hedging yet, but we will be in the future. So when we get to that point, I'll go over hedging and how to hedge, how much you should hedge. Of course, it's going to be dependent on your pool. So let's just look at this pool again, because I want to go over now. Look at the 42 that we started with, and then look at what these people who got eliminated in week 1 and 2 took. Like Buffalo in week 1, I mean, a tiny favorite over the Jets. Seattle was not a great pick in week 1. Minnesota, Chicago, okay, Denver. And then last week with Cleveland, Detroit, and Denver again. Maybe some of these were decent picks in larger pools, but there was no need to do it in smaller pools. I want you to see in my pool, and I'm sure you can look in your pool as well, exactly how that has played out. We have now gotten ourselves to the point where we've lost, what is it? We've lost 17, 18 people, 18 picks in this pool. We're down to 24. I started with 2. So I've got a 1 in 12 chance of winning this pool, just if everything is all being equal. And I started out the pool with 42. I had a 1 in 21 chance. So I've almost doubled my chances to win this pool, and I've done nothing crazy, right? And this week is probably going to be a lot the same. I'm not going to get too crazy here this week in a small pool like this. All right, so let's dive into Survivor Grid, and hopefully you can see exactly what I'm talking about when we look at Survivor Grid and what we're looking at for this week and how we could pretty much stay chalky and let other people fall again in these smaller type of pools. So when we sort it here by the teams with the best chance of winning, we see Kansas City, Chicago, almost a 2-touchdown favorite. Dallas, big favorite in Arizona. San Francisco's a double-digit favorite over the Giants, and Jacksonville, a double-digit favorite over Houston. So we've got options here. Certainly Baltimore as well. A lot of you may have taken Baltimore like I did on one of my picks there. Buffalo, some of you may have taken them. But we're going to focus for the time being on these top 4 teams and the double-digit favorites that they are. So when you've got options like this, let's start looking into the future. And you see San Francisco next week is going to be an even bigger favorite. So that's why of these 4 teams, San Francisco, as you can see, being taken the least of the 4. And that is because they've got immediate future value. That's another thing we talk about. Future value is great, but future value when we're looking out to week 15 is not as significant as when we're looking out to week 4. Why? Because of injuries. If CMC and Brock Purdy go out this week, they're still going to be a pretty big favorite, right? But it changes things maybe in the future playing some of these other teams. Lines may change dramatically, and we won't be as big of a favorite. Or if other teams, another team gets an injury, all of a sudden a team that we weren't thinking about taking in week 9 becomes a team that now all of a sudden we want to take because of injuries. But we can have less chance of injuries happening, of crazy things happening, if we're only looking out 1 week out or 2 weeks out. And as you can see, as I'm doing this, the play or fade Arizona kind of lines itself up really nice. You could have done it in week 1 and 2, and you'd advance here. We did that. We were kind of advocating for that. You're going to see a lot of people do that in the future weeks here. Dallas, if you go against Arizona, you'll take Dallas this week. You'll take San Francisco next week, and then you'll have Cincinnati for week 5. In week 6, not as strong a play. Certainly could take the Rams, but we're going to have some other options here as well. But for the next 3 weeks, you could really go against Arizona. I'm okay with that in any size pool, really. I'm okay with taking that. Certainly in a pool like the one I just showed you, where we don't have that many people left. I love taking Dallas here and taking that line, right? I love having Dallas and then San Francisco, taking the chalkier picks. Let other people try and go against the grain here. We've got it lined up for the next 3 weeks where we can really have the best, potentially the best team on the board, and we'll let other people go and take those picks like Seattle and Denver and whatnot, like they did in the first couple of weeks. And hopefully we can knock that down to maybe 15 people left in my pool, and I'll have 2 entries left of the 15. That's kind of the way I'm looking at the smaller pools. Now, if I was looking at a larger pool, we can do one of 2 things, right? In larger pools, well, you know what? Let's bring up the Survivor sheet, the spreadsheet that I have here first before we start talking about larger pools, because that's going to give you a better idea. So we look at 0%, and you see when we do it at 0%, it's always going to give you the biggest favorites. So that would be Kansas City, Dallas, and then the top 3 favorites, right? So on and so forth. Jacksonville is your 4th favorite if you were taking 4 teams. That's pretty simple. When we move it out to 25%, Jacksonville becomes a little bit stronger play here because they have less future value. Let's just look at Jacksonville on Survivor Grid just to get an idea of exactly how much future value they have when we would be thinking about taking them against Indianapolis potentially here in week 6. But you're going to have Kansas City, Miami as 2 options if you've already taken Buffalo. So you don't necessarily have to take Jacksonville here. Against Tennessee, I mean, is it a great spot in week 11? Not the best of spots. You've got Buffalo you've probably taken. You might have taken Dallas at that point if you took them this week or last week. Again, we got Miami. San Francisco you would have taken, but Detroit more than likely is going to be a team that you're going to have available to you, right? So here's your out with Detroit in week 11. But again, we're looking way too far out into the future. And then Jacksonville at Houston. Will you have options? Potentially Minnesota here, Detroit, Cincinnati we're going to probably take. So, it starts to get dicey, but these pools get dicey as you go further out. If you survive to week 11 and 12, you're always going to be in a precarious position. You're never just going to have that double-digit favorite staring you in the face. It's very rare, at least, that's going to happen. So potentially here in larger pools, you can take Jacksonville as a contrarian type of play, but I'm okay in all formats here taking the fade Arizona line. It's okay. Now, if you're in a larger pool and you've got a lot of entries, we always talk about this, how you can be riskier, how you should be taking a little bit more risk. There's 2 ways to do that. One is by taking one of these teams that maybe not everyone in the pool is taking. If you dip down, just jump back up on Survivor Grid. If you get down to, let's say, taking this week Miami, which not a lot of people are going to be on. You see it's about 5.5%. About 5.5% are going to be on Seattle. Right, teams that are lesser favorite. I don't think we need to do that here this week. We've got just too many teams that have a double-digit favorite, that are a double-digit favorite in this game. Now, to figure out if one of these teams could potentially lose, you just multiply all of the probabilities of them winning, right? So they're about all in the low 80s or to 80% chance of winning. The probability of one of those teams losing, if you multiply all those probabilities up, is about 50% to have at least one of them lose. So there's a chance here, a 50-50 chance that we're going to knock out maybe 20% of the pool. So if you can avoid the one team that is going to lose or potentially will lose this week of those 4, you're going to pick up 20% on the pool. So one way to do that is put all your eggs in one basket. Extremely risky, but it's something that I'm thinking about. I've got one pool where I'm in. I've got 53 entries left. There's over 5,000 people left in that pool. I'm pretty much on par with the pool as far as from an equity standpoint. I've lost about the same amount of entries that the entire pool has lost. So in a pool like that, I'm looking to gain an edge. I may go a little heavier and take whatever picks. I've taken Dallas with some of the picks. I may take all of the picks that I have remaining, 36 of them that I can, on Dallas, and then spread them out maybe take some Jacksonville. I could just do all Dallas and Jacksonville and take a shot here that those two teams advance, and hopefully we lose somewhere else. It's a possibility. There's a lot of different ways you can go about it. The way you could also do, maybe sprinkle in one Miami. If I had that 53, one Miami, two Miamis, one Seattle, two Seattles, mixed in with some Jacksonville, and then the 36 on Dallas. So as you can see, there's different ways you could take risk here. You could go more narrow, take less teams, put all your eggs in one basket. When it works, if you actually on a different pool, not the one that I showed you, I had 24 entries. Week 1, I took them all on Washington. All right, so that was my chance. It's a larger pool. There was, I think it started with 12 or 1,300 people in that pool. Well, I'm down. I've got, of the 24, I've got 23 of my entries left, and we've lost a good, whatever it is, 30, 40, 35%, I think, of that pool, and I've only lost one entry. So I was able to build a lot of equity in that pool by going hard on one team. It's high risk, but the reward is I've got a lot more equity. Now, because of that, I'm going to play that pool a lot chalkier. I'm not going to go all in on Dallas, although I could conceivably, because I'm still in a pool with, there's what, 700 or 800 people I think left in that pool, 700 or so. If I'm doing it off the top of my head. Yeah, so I think it's 700 or 800 people left in that pool. I'm still at a big disadvantage to win that pool. I could potentially go really hard on Dallas here, and if the same thing happens for me in week 1, in week 3 that happened for me in week 1, I pick up a ton of equity on the pool that way. So different ways to play it. You can take a little bit of a team that's not as strong of a favorite if you have one entry, or you can, with multiple entries, maybe go hard on one team and build equity that way. It's all about trying to build equity, and then as we build equity, we can hopefully way down the line start to hedge and then make some money out of the pool without actually winning the pool. So just some thoughts, some ideas. We've got a lot of options this week. You guys crush it with the comments down below. Remember, when you comment, just let me know all the rules of your pool, how many people are left, how many entries you have, any special rules, double elimination, rebuys, anything like that. If it's double picks, we're going to be coming up on double picks in a lot of pools as well. Any special rules to your pool, let me know. And again, guys, I thank you tremendously for making this one of the most popular videos in all of Survivor videos on YouTube. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to the Sharp app. And guys, give the Sharp app a look. Let me know what you think about it. All right, it's enough for this week. We've got a lot to think about. Hit me up in the comments. I'll see you guys in a week. Hopefully, we're still surviving.